world around me shouldn't exist. I stood frozen, my breath heavy, my mind clawing for reason, but there was none. The land, the sky, everything had changed in an instant. The ruins of Shiganshina were gone, replaced by something that shouldn't be here. The wall was wrong. It was taller, far taller than I remembered, stretching into the sky far past the clouds, a twisted parody of what it once was. The texture of the stone was unnatural, shifting subtly, like it was alive, breathing. And then there were the people. At first, they looked normal, scattered survivors, standing in stunned silence. But when I looked closer, their faces flickered, like glitches in reality. Their eyes were vacant, their mouths moving silently, repeating words I couldn't hear. This wasn't real. I took a step back, and my stomach lurched. The ground beneath me felt unstable, like stepping on something that didn't fully exist. I turned my head too fast, and for a split second I saw it, something standing at the edge of my vision, tall and skeletal, its form flickering between existence and nothingness. A pulse of pain shot through my skull. And then, a voice. "You were never meant to see this." I clutched my head, my heartbeat hammering against my ribs. The voice wasn't spoken. It was in me, crawling into my thoughts like something unnatural. I gasped for air, my hands shaking. What did I do? Then I heard the sound. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from behind me. I turned, and there he was, Aaron. But it wasn't the Aaron I knew. He stood there in the middle of the empty street, his face blank, unreadable. His eyes, they were wrong, not determined, not furious, just empty, like something was wearing his skin, pretending to be him. And then, without moving his lips, I heard his voice. "Go back." I staggered backward. "Aaron, what the hell is going on? Where are we?" His face didn't change. "Go back." My breath hitched. Something was deeply, horribly wrong. Behind Aaron, the wall shuddered. Not the way a structure would under stress. No, it twitched, as if something massive inside it had just moved. A rumbling noise began, but it wasn't the sound of stone shifting. It was a heartbeat, loud, slow, rhythmic. The people, those flickering wrong people, began turning toward us. Their heads moved at unnatural angles, their movements stiff. Their mouths were still moving, still forming silent words. I turned back to Aaron, my voice cracking. "Aaron, what's happening? What is this?" But he was gone. Just gone. And then, above me, the wall opened its eyes. The wall had eyes, massive, ancient, and blinking as if it had just woken up. I couldn't breathe. My legs refused to move, frozen in place as that thing inside the wall looked straight at me. The colossal, slit-pupiled eye was not human, not Titan, not anything I had ever seen before. And then it focused. A sharp, predatory movement, like a creature locking onto its prey. On me. A deep, inhuman groan rippled through the wall, sending vibrations into the ground. The flickering, glitching people around me turned in unison, their mouths still moving soundlessly, as if whispering something to it. And then the voice returned. "You should not exist." It wasn't spoken aloud. It was inside me, crawling through my skull like an invading parasite. My vision blurred. I staggered back, my pulse hammering as nausea twisted my insides. Then the wall cracked open. Not like stone breaking, like skin splitting. The eye widened, revealing something inside. Something moving, something massive. A hand. It pressed outward from within the wall, its flesh writhing, as if shifting between different forms, different realities. It was neither human nor Titan. It was something else entirely. The heartbeat in my ears grew louder, and then it stepped out. At first, I couldn't comprehend what I was looking at. It was a titan, but it was wrong, like something had gone horribly wrong in its creation. Its body was shifting, muscles and bones realigning as if it couldn't decide what form to take. Its skin rippled like liquid, changing texture, sometimes smooth, sometimes cracked and ancient. Then I saw its face, or rather, faces. They weren't its own. They were others, human faces shifting across its body, appearing and disappearing, some frozen in agony, some whispering silently. For a split second, I thought I saw Erin's face among them. Then Grisha's. Then mine. My vision blacked out. I woke up somewhere else. The sky was white. Not clouds, not light, just an empty, endless void. I was standing on something solid, but it wasn't earth. It felt like I was standing on nothing. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, measured, coming closer. I turned and saw myself, standing there, watching me. It had no expression, no emotion, just a blank stare, as if trying to understand what I was. My own voice spoke, but it wasn't me. You are the mistake. I staggered back, my body refusing to obey me. Who? What? It stepped forward, tilting its head. Its eyes were my eyes. You exist in a place where you were not meant to be. I wanted to scream. I wanted to wake up. Then it raised its hand, and everything collapsed. I gasped as I was pulled back into the real world. The wall, the titan, the shifting flesh. It was all still there. The whispers were louder now, a chorus of voices speaking words I still couldn't understand. The titan stepped forward. I didn't think. I ran. My legs carried me without thought, pure survival instinct kicking in. The moment I moved, the whispers stopped. All the flickering people turned at once. They saw me. Then, as if triggered by my movement, they screamed, a horrible, unnatural, deafening wail. The titan lunged. I ran. The screams of those flickering, shifting people chased after me, their voices overlapping into an unholy, unnatural wail. The ground beneath me warped, like I was running on a surface that wasn't fully real. Behind me, the titan moved. Not like a normal titan. There was no clumsy, lumbering stride. This thing glided, its form still unstable, shifting, pulsing, changing every second. Sometimes it was skinless, sometimes covered in writhing faces, and for one terrible moment, I swore I saw my own eyes staring back at me from its shoulder. I wasn't supposed to be here. That thought repeated in my head over and over, like a parasite burrowing into my brain. Then I tripped. The ground rippled, my foot sinking for a fraction of a second, as if the world itself wasn't solid anymore. I tumbled forward, landing hard. My skull rang, my vision blurred. A shadow fell over me. I turned just in time to see the titan raise its hand. It was going to end me. And then it stopped. The whispers, the screams, the world itself froze. And then I heard a voice, a real one, a human one. Get up. I knew that voice. My blood ran cold as I turned my head. Standing right there, was Eren. Eren shouldn't be here, not the way I remembered him. His hair was longer, unkempt. His uniform was ripped, stained with blood. His stance, rigid, his fists clenched, looked like he was barely keeping himself together. But his eyes were alive. Unlike the flickering, fake people around us. Unlike the thing inside the wall. Unlike the version of him I had seen before. This was real. Eren! My voice cracked, hoarse from exhaustion and fear. His eyes locked onto mine. Cold. Determined. Resigned. You need to move. Now. His hand shot forward, grabbed my arm and yanked me to my feet. The Titan was still frozen, as if time itself had stopped when Aaron arrived. But that wouldn't last. The world was unraveling, and something told me Aaron was the only reason I was still standing. I swallowed the fear burning my throat. What the hell is happening? That Titan... Aaron tightened his grip on my wrist. That's not a Titan. My breath hitched. Then what is it? His jaw tensed. A mistake. The ground shifted beneath us. Not like an earthquake. Not like anything normal. The wall shuddered again, but this time it was collapsing in reverse. Stone folding inward, brickwork knitting itself back together like a wound closing. And then the Titan moved. Not like before. Not a physical movement. It glitched. 1 second it was frozen. The next, it was right behind us. Aaron threw me aside. A massive hand came down where we had been standing, shattering the ground into fragmented pieces. But instead of rubble, instead of dirt, there was nothing beneath it. Just a dark, endless void. I choked on a breath. The ground. Aaron was already moving. He knew. He had seen this before. We're leaving. He turned toward me, but something changed. His eyes flickered just for a second. His face. For the briefest moment, Aaron's face wasn't his. It was someone else's. The world lurched again, and suddenly we weren't in Shiganshina anymore. We were somewhere else. A white, empty field. Not snow, not sand, not light. Just white. The sky stretched endlessly. No sun, no horizon. The air was still, silent. Aaron stood in front of me, but something about him felt different. "How much do you know?" he asked. I swallowed hard. What the hell does that mean? Aaron didn't answer immediately. He turned his gaze toward the horizon, toward nothingness. "That thing inside the wall," he said. "It doesn't just change the past. It rewrites it." My chest tightened. "What are you saying?" Aaron exhaled sharply. "You think you were always here, right?" I blinked. "What? Your memories? Your life? Do you remember everything?" I hesitated. I thought back to my childhood, my training, my first day in the Survey Corps. I remembered them. I did. But something was wrong. The details. The faces. The voices. They were fuzzy. Like a story I had been told, rather than something I had lived. A cold chill ran down my spine. "Aaron, what are you saying?" His face darkened. "That thing has been erasing people for a long time." My blood ran cold. "And if we don't stop it, you'll be next." I stood there in the endless white void, my heart pounding, my mind racing. "That thing has been erasing people for a long time," Aaron had said. "And if we don't stop it, you'll be next." I swallowed hard. "Aaron, tell me what's going on. No riddles, no cryptic bullshit. What is the 10th Titan?" Aaron clenched his jaw, his fists trembling. He didn't look at me when he spoke. His eyes were locked on the void stretching before us. "The 10th Titan never should have existed," he said. "It was never part of Ymir's power. It was something else, something that came later." I shook my head, struggling to process. Later? How is that even possible? The Titans have existed for... Exactly. Aaron finally turned to me, his gaze sharp, intense. It wasn't born like the others. It didn't come from Ymir's curse, or the paths, or the founding Titan. It's something else. Something that doesn't just change the past, it rewrites it. A sickening realization settled in my gut. You're saying it's been altering history? Not just history. His voice was grim. Reality itself. I felt my breath catch. "Think about it," he continued. "What do you really remember?" Not just names and events. What do you feel? Do your memories feel real to you? Or do they feel planted? I wanted to argue. I wanted to say, of course, my memories were real. I could recall my first training session, my first kill, my friends, my squad. But the more I thought about it, the less real it felt. Like shadows of things that never truly happened. I staggered back. No, that's not possible. Isn't it? Aaron's voice was barely above a whisper. I clenched my teeth. Then how the hell do you still remember? If this thing erases people, if it rewrites everything, how are you still standing here? Aaron's expression darkened. He hesitated. And then, finally, he said, "Because I already died." Silence. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared at him, my mind refusing to process what I had just heard. "You died?" My voice cracked. That doesn't make sense. You're here." Aaron's gaze didn't waver. "Not the way you think," he said. "Not like how Titans kill people. This thing, it erases people from existence. But I had already died. I was already part of something bigger. That's why it couldn't touch me completely." I shook my head, panic rising in my chest. That doesn't explain anything. How did you survive? What even are you now?" Aaron let out a slow breath, then did something I didn't expect. He rolled up his sleeve, and beneath it, instead of skin, there was nothing. No muscle, no blood, just empty space. Like part of him had never been there at all. I took a step back. "I didn't survive," he admitted. "I'm not supposed to exist anymore. I think I'm just a leftover, a ghost in the system. I'm only here because I fought hard enough to not be erased. But every second that thing stays alive, it keeps rewriting everything, piece by piece, removing anything that doesn't fit." I felt sick. This was bigger than anything I had imagined. The 10th Titan wasn't just another shifter. It wasn't just some lost power or hidden bloodline. It was something beyond the Titans themselves. Something that could edit the very fabric of the world. Aaron's voice snapped me back. "We don't have much time. It's already noticed us. We have one chance to stop it." I swallowed hard. "How?" His expression was grim. "We have to destroy it at the source." "The source?" "It's still connected to the paths. That's how it rewrites reality. We need to reach it there." The paths. The invisible, incomprehensible network that linked all Titans across time. The plane where Ymir had once been trapped. I had only heard stories, theories. Few had ever been there and come back. And now Aaron was saying we had to go there and kill something that existed outside of reality itself. "This is insane," I muttered. "It's the only way," Aaron said. Then the void around us shuddered. Something was changing. Aaron snapped his head up. He felt it too. "It's waking up." And then, for the first time since I had arrived in this broken reality, I heard its voice directly. "You will not reach the end." The voice rumbled through the void, vibrating through my bones like 1,000 voices speaking at once, each from a different reality. Aaron grabbed my wrist. "Now!" The void collapsed. For a moment, I felt nothing. No ground, no air, no body. I was falling without falling, plummeting towards something that didn't exist. And then, light. Blinding, golden light, stretching endlessly in all directions. A sea of sand beneath my feet. A great, gnarled tree towering in the distance. The paths. I gasped for air, but there was no air to breathe. My chest ached, my vision blurred, but I was here. Aaron stood beside me, staring ahead. "We don't have much time," he said. I turned, following his gaze, and I saw it. The 10th Titan, not just a Titan, the source. It stood at the center of the paths, its form shifting, flickering between different versions of itself. Sometimes a Titan, sometimes a shadow, sometimes something I couldn't even comprehend. It wasn't a being, it was a concept. And the moment we saw it, it saw us. Its voice returned everywhere at once. "You are an anomaly. You should not be here." The air around us rippled. The paths trembled, the sand glitching, shifting between different textures, water, stone, ash. Aaron stepped forward. "We're here to end you." The Titan didn't speak. It just moved. And suddenly, we weren't in the paths anymore. I was in Shiganshina. I staggered, my boots scraping against cracked stone. The burning city stretched before me, smoke curling into the sky. Aaron was gone. And in front of me, they were all alive. Armin, Mikasa, Jean, Sasha, Connie, Hank, Erwin, all standing there, looking at me. Their faces were blank, their eyes empty. Then they spoke, all at once, in the Titan's voice. "This is the world before you." I felt my heart stop, and then the world shifted again. Now I was in a future that didn't exist. The walls were gone. There were no Titans, no war, just peace. Children played in the streets. Families lived without fear. And then I saw myself, living a life that was never mine. A house, a family, a different version of me. The Titan's voice whispered, "This is the world without you." I collapsed to my knees. What is this? My voice trembled. A choice. I was back in the paths. Aaron stood beside me, breathing hard. He had seen it too. The 10th Titan loomed before us, its form pulsing, shifting, waiting. "It's giving us a choice," Aaron muttered. His voice was hollow. I turned to him. "A choice? We erase it, and everything it changed. Or we let it reshape the world." I swallowed hard. My mind reeled. If we erased it, everything it had rewritten would be undone. All the lost people, the erased moments, the forgotten histories, they would return. But so would the Titans. So would everything that was meant to happen. Or, if we let it exist, the world would be rewritten again. A world where the Titans never existed, where the war never happened, where people lived in peace, where I never existed. My hands shook. Aaron turned to me, his expression unreadable. "It has to be your choice." I stared at the Titan, at the thing that had rewritten reality, that had erased people like they were mistakes. I thought of my friends, the ones I had lost, the ones who had died because of the Titans. I thought of all the pain and suffering that had shaped this world. Then I thought of what I saw, a world where none of it ever happened. I closed my eyes, and I made my choice. Final decision: erase or let it exist. Erase it all. I clenched my fists. We end this. Aaron nodded. We stepped forward together, facing the 10th Titan, this thing that had rewritten history, twisted reality, erased lives like they were just errors in a system. It was time to erase it instead. The paths trembled as we moved. The Titan reacted, its shifting, flickering form pulsing like it knew what was coming. "You do not understand." The voices crawled into my head, desperate now, like they were pleading instead of commanding. "You are part of this now. If you erase me, you erase yourselves." My breath hitched. I turned to Aaron. He didn't hesitate. "Do it." The air rippled, and then we struck. Blinding light erupted. The paths collapsed inward, like the entire fabric of existence was folding back on itself. The Titan screamed, a sound that shouldn't exist, stretching beyond time, beyond reality, beyond everything. And then, silence. I gasped for breath. I was lying on something rough, something real, stone, Shiganshina. I pushed myself up, my body trembling, my mind fragmented. The wall stood before me, intact, solid, normal. The sky was clear. The world was real again. I turned my head, and I saw them. People. The flickering, hollow people I had seen before. They were back, real, alive. I felt a surge of relief. It worked. Then I turned to Aaron, and I froze. He was fading, not dying, not vanishing in a way that made sense. He was glitching, his form flickering, pieces of him unraveling like loose threads of a tapestry. His gaze met mine. I told you I wasn't supposed to exist. No, wait. I reached for him, my chest tightening. We fixed it. Aaron smiled, a real smile. You did. And then he was gone. Like he had never been there at all. The 10th Titan had erased so many people. And now that we had erased it, so was Aaron. The world moved on. The Titans returned. The cycle of violence and war continued. But the people who had been lost, the ones erased by the 10th Titan, they were back. And I was the only one who remembered what had been changed. Ending B, let it exist. I stepped back. Let it go. Aaron's eyes widened. He studied me, waiting for me to take it back, to change my mind. I didn't. You're sure? I swallowed hard. We've spent our entire lives fighting against the Titans, but what if we didn't have to? The 10th Titan pulsed, as if acknowledging my decision. The world shifted. For a brief moment I saw it all. The Titans disappearing, the war never happening, the walls never built, the chaos, the violence, the deaths erased. Reality reshaped itself, and then I wasn't there anymore. I woke up in a new world, a city, tall buildings stretched into the sky, technology beyond anything I had ever seen. Cars sped down the roads, massive screens flashed advertisements, and people walked freely with no fear, no weapons, no walls. I stumbled forward, my breath unsteady. No one looked at me like I didn't belong. No one looked at me at all. I turned to the glass of a nearby building and saw my reflection. But it wasn't me. It was someone else. Similar, but different. I clutched my head, memories scrambling, twisting. Who was I? The name I had known my whole life wasn't there anymore. The memories of the Survey Corps, of Shiganshina, of the war, fading, slipping away like a dream. I turned back. Aaron was standing across the street, watching me. And then, just before he disappeared into the crowd, he smiled, like he knew, like he remembered, even if I never would.